So if you want to start your playlists from the first track, we're going to start in Shavasana. Well, we're going to start lying down. So coming onto your mat, we're going to bring the soles of the feet together, just a little way away from the hips, and you can just relax the knees out. I'm just going to come it down a little. So relaxing knees down. Just going to walk onto the hands, starting to bring the weight slowly onto the hands, starting to relax all of the body, giving all of the weight to the hands. And gradually you can come down onto the forearms, starting to give the weight to the forearms. Again, allowing the upper body to become heavy. And gradually I'm going to walk all the way down onto the back. Again, allowing the body to weigh down onto the back. And we're just going to gently place the palms of the hands over the ribs so that the fingers are just touching the lower edge of the rib cage. Resting the elbows down on the ground, either side of the body, starting to allow the shoulders to become heavy as well. And you can allow the eyes to drift closed if you haven't already. And as we draw the breath in through the nose, just use the hands to guide the breath into this space in the rib cage. Feel the ribs expanding outward. Maybe allowing the breath to fill the abdomen as well, noticing where the breath wants to travel to first, the abdomen or the rib cage. And as you exhale, just feel the ribs sinking back down. Feeling this movement in the hands. Continuing with this breath as we inhale, opening up, feeling this expansion, this widening. Maybe noticing as the rib cage opens, what happens with the shoulders. If you like, you can keep the breath quiet, even silent. Or you can start to practice Ujjayi breath, making some sound with the exhalation as the breath bounces off the back of the throat. With each inhalation, becoming more aware of the space in the body, allowing each time more of your attention to be directed into this space, allowing you to have control over the breath. Noticing what happens in the back as the breath is released back out from the rib cage. Maybe you can feel the muscles in the back relaxing down into the ground, filling any spaces, any pockets of air between the back and the ground. Maybe you can just start to exaggerate this, allowing the back to relax down further, allowing all of the muscles to soften and melt down into the ground. The back relaxed. You can allow the muscles in the face to soften as well. And with the next exhale, continuing to direct the breath into this space in the torso, we're just going to release the backs of the hands down to the ground so the arms are opened out wide. Allow shoulders to become very heavy. And keeping eyes closed, Gonna slowly pull knees together, bringing soles of the feet to the ground, keeping legs bent. And we're just gonna rock the knees from left to right, following the breath. Just finding a gentle twist. Maybe as you bring the knees to the left, you feel more expansion in the right ribs, and as you bring them to the right, you can feel more expansion through the left ribs. And slowly coming all the way back to center. I'm going to hug the knees into the chest. And just start to draw circles, moving anti-clockwise to begin with the hips, leaving the arms flat along the ground, keeping palms relaxed. And changing direction, moving anti-clockwise. Again, drawing big circles with the hips. Slowly coming back to center. The arms to hug the knees a little tighter into the chest. We're just going to rock gently from left to right until we can bring the knees all the way down toward the ground on each side. And when you come to the right side, I just want you to release the legs all the way down, rolling onto your right side, bringing right hand under right ear. And allowing the eyes slowly open here, letting in the light from the room. And pushing up into a comfortable seated position. So we're going to start seated now, pulling the flesh out from under the sit bones. Bringing the right foot into the right hip. And either you can bring the left foot to the right shin, or you can bring the left foot over the right thigh, coming into half lotus. Wherever you are, allowing knees to relax down, starting to find length through the sides of the body, and slowly walking the palms behind the hips, turning fingers either out toward the edges of the mat, or if you can, walking the fingertips all the way back toward the edge of the mat. Continuing to pull the knees down, and remembering this breath as we inhale, continuing to fill the rib cage and feeling the rib cage starting to rise up toward the ceiling, shoulders pulling back, finding space here, finding length through the back. Again, visualizing the hands over the ribs. And allowing this visualization to direct the breath into this space. Again, continuing with your dry breath if you like. With each inhalation, pulling up a little further through the rib cage, imagining this point in the middle of the chest, a line coming out of this point, pulling the chest up toward the ceiling. And we're going to bring the left hand a little further toward the center of the back, so where the spine is, either leaving the palm or the fingertips on the ground, bringing right hand to left knee. Inhale, lengthening through the sides of the body, lengthening all the way up. And as you exhale, twisting round, looking toward the back of the mat. If you like, you can bring left hand to left foot. If you're in half lotus, pulling on the foot, helping you twist a little further round. Wherever you are, using your right hand on the left knee to pull you around a little further as well. Checking shoulders are keeping away from the ears. And again, bring your focus into the left ribs. And just continue to fill this space, maybe finding there's more expansion through the left ribs than the right in this twist. And if you like, you can release the right hand, bringing the hand onto the ribs, helping you direct the breath into this space. Continuing to pull down through the shoulders, lengthening up through the sides of the body. And as we inhale, we're going to pull the arms and the hands all the way up toward the ceiling, lengthening once more through the sides, keeping chest open, continuing with this breath. Exhale, bringing hands in front of the knees, pulling the chest forward as you pull hands back. And as you exhale, maybe allowing the abdomen to sink down toward the legs, staying on the hands, walking down onto forearms if you like. If you're feeling open in the hips, you can walk the hands all the way forward and allow the body to flatten a little further. Still trying to keep chest open, shoulders back. Visualizing the hands on the ribs. Again, noticing if the breath comes first into the abdomen or into the ribs. Noticing if it leaves the abdomen or the ribs first as well. Drawing one long inhalation back into the body, stretching the hands a little further forward, or the forearms, and as we exhale, sinking down as deeply as we can without causing any pain. Inhale, coming back into our seated position, changing the cross of the legs. So bringing left foot into left hip, and either bringing right foot in front of left shin or over the left thigh. Relaxing the knees down, pulling the flesh out from under sit bones, and choosing your variation here, either fingers pointing out, palms flat, or fingers pointing toward the back of the mat, wherever you are, palms pressing into the ground, trying to lengthen through the arms as the shoulders come back, breathing into the rib cage, lifting through the chest, pulling up through the ribs, finding space between the rib cage and the hips, and keeping breath long. Again, with each inhalation, maybe pulling the rib cage a little further away from the hips, finding a little more lift. Choosing if you want to have the head looking forward, or if you like, you can relax it back. Whatever feels nicer to you. See if you can find a little more length through the arms, maybe pressing palms a little deeper, finding space between palms and shoulders. And again, slowly we'll walk the right hand toward the center of the back, either flattening the palm onto the ground or coming up onto fingertips, bringing left hand to right knee. Inhale, lengthening through the sides of the body. Exhale, twisting round. Starting to look toward the back of the mat once more. Keeping the breath long. And either staying here, or if you're in half lotus and if you can reach, you can try and grab the right foot with the right hand. Pulling on that foot, helping you find a slightly deeper twist. Wherever you are, pulling shoulders away from ears. Noticing as the breath starts to fill the right rib cage. Maybe there's more space in the right ribs than the left. Starting to exaggerate this breath, allowing the right ribs to expand a little more each time. And keeping this twist again, maybe releasing the left hand, bringing the left hand onto the right ribs, finding even more expansion in this space. Feeling them filling the left hand. Keep using the right arm to twist around. Checking shoulders are pulling down. And inhale, lengthening up through the sides of the body, pulling hands overhead. Exhale, slowly bringing the hands in front of the knees. Inhale, pulling back through the hands, pulling the chest forward through the shoulders, opening up through the chest, breathing into the ribs once more again, visualizing the hands on this space, helping you to find expansion here, helping you pull the chest forward through the shoulders. Staying high on the palms if you like, or maybe sinking down onto forearms, continuing to pull the chest forward as we inhale. Maybe allowing the abdomen to soften, to rest down over the legs as you exhale. Shoulders pulling down the whole time. And again, if your hips are feeling open without causing yourself any pain, without reaching your absolute limit, you can stretch the arms forward if you like, maybe softening the abdomen a little more, relaxing down a little further, still pulling chest forward toward the hands. Visualizing the breath as it travels in and out. And again, with one long inhalation, stretching the hands or the forearms a little further forward. And as we exhale, sinking down deeply into the ground. Inhale, walking back into our seated position. And releasing the legs. I'm going to bring both of the feet behind us, coming into tabletop. Checking knees and feet are hip width apart, toes directly behind the knees, toes tucked. And we're going to walk the hands backwards, so fingers are pointing toward the knees. We're pointing them as far back as you can, so maybe they're pointing more toward the edge of the mat. If you can, bringing them all the way back to face the knees. Again, trying to flatten the palms, spreading the fingers out wide. And as we inhale, we're going to start to lift the tailbone, squeezing the glutes, tipping the pelvis up toward the ceiling, relaxing the navel and the abdomen down, opening up through the chest, coming into our cow position. And if you want to increase the stretch through the forearms, you can start to gently bend the elbows, keeping shoulders pulling back, lifting the gaze, glutes stay engaged. And as we exhale, starting to lengthen up through the arms, lengthening the elbows, you can start to tip the tailbone down, keeping glutes engaged, pulling navel towards spine, pulling front ribs into back ribs, finding length through the arms, pulling shoulders away from the wrists. Relaxing the head down. Inhale, coming back into cow. Again, slowly bending elbows as we arch the back, lifting the gaze, glutes stay engaged. Exhale, lengthening through the arms, rounding through the back, pulling the front body into the back body. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale one last time. And allowing the spine to be neutral. Walking the hands back toward the front of the mat. Just pressing the palms down once more, spreading the fingers out wide. We're going to start to link our cat and our cow, circling from left to right. So open up to the left side ribs, opening all the way up to the side of the body, opening up to the back, relaxing head down, opening up to the right ribs, coming down to center. Inhale, opening up back up to the left, to the back, through the right, and down one last time through the left. And as we come to center, changing direction, opening up to the right side, breathing into the right ribs, opening up to the back, to the left side, and relaxing down to center. 2 more times, following your own breath. Allowing the head to follow the spine. And coming all the way back to center. You're going to pull the sit bones down onto the heels, pressing them firmly as you can, and walking hands forward, stretching into an active child pose. Allowing the forehead to rest down on the ground. Pulling the sit bones into the heels, finding space from the hips all the way along the side of the body, through the arms to the fingertips, rolling shoulders out and pulling the shoulders back away from the hands. We're going to practice some spinal rolls as we inhale. Again, tipping the tailbone down, starting to round through the back, pulling abdomen into spine as we do, starting to bring the weight forward toward the hands. And as we inhale, tipping the tailbone back up toward the ceiling, starting to arch through the back and pulling the weight back toward the heels. Inhale, coming forward. Exhale, driving back. Trying to connect these two movements. Allowing the movement and the breath to be fluid. Allowing the head to follow the spine. Keeping glutes engaged the whole time. And this last time, as we pull the weight back, as we're arching the back, slowly lift the knees off the ground, pushing back into our power down dog, keeping knees bent, keeping shoulders rotating out, relaxing the head down, pulling the chest and the abdomen in toward the thighs. And breathing here. Keeping heels lifted for now. Keeping this bend in the knees. Breathing into the rib cage, breathing into the abdomen. If you like, you can start to rock the hips from side to side, finding a stretch through left and right side. And coming back to center. As we inhale, you can start to lengthen through the legs, pulling the heels up a little higher, pulling up through the hips, still pulling the weight back toward the feet, away from the hands. And as we exhale, slowly pull the heels down toward the ground. If you feel like your back is rounding and shoulders are coming forward, you can start to lift a little more through the heels, maybe finding a bend until the back can straighten. Wherever you are, focusing on relaxing the head down once more, maybe nodding the head gently up and down. Maybe from side to side, shaking the head softly. Just relaxing the neck. And as we inhale, we're gonna try a different spinal roll. If you feel like it's too strong, you can come back to the knees and practice the same one as before. So from down dog, we're going to lift the heels, lifting again higher through the hips, starting to tip tailbone down, starting to pull navel into spine, rounding the back, bringing the weight forward toward the hands. And as the weight reaches the hands, you can bend the knees, starting to lift to the tailbone, arching the back, pulling the weight back, lifting through heels, coming forward, rounding, exhale, bending the knees. And continuing doing circles like this, following the breath, keeping glutes engaged. One more round. And lifting through heels, exhale, grounding back down. Resting knees on the mat in front of the toes, coming back into our active child, pressing the sit bones down over the heels, stretching the arms forward, resting the forehead onto the mat. And just allow the abdomen to soften between the thighs. Allow the breath to lengthen without relaxing the arms. Check the shoulders are still rotating out, but they're still pulling back away from the hands. Finding a gentle stretch in the shoulders here. And lifting back through the hips. Coming forward for our spinal roll. And as we lift through the tailbone, again, this time pulling back, lifting the knees back into our downward dog, lifting heels, lengthening through the backs of the legs. Exhale, grounding down through the heels. Pausing here in our down dog. Checking our alignment, checking our breath. And slowly bending the right leg. We're going to pull the right knee up toward the ceiling, coming into scorpion pose, looking through right arm. Pressing left heel down, squeezing the left glute, pulling up through right knee. And as we inhale, pull the right foot forward, lifting onto fingertips if you like to help you bring the right foot all the way between the hands. Resting left knee on the mat. Squaring the hips, checking right ankle is below right knee. And as we inhale, keeping glutes engaged, starting to lengthen to the sides of the body, lifting onto fingertips or bringing the hands to the right knee, shoulders pulling back. Inhale, hands overhead, keeping glutes engaged still, pulling the weight back, bringing chest over hips. Breathing, visualizing the hands on the ribs once more, feeling this expansion. If you want, you can bring the hands back down to the ribs and give yourself a little reminder. Pulling down through shoulders, pulling them away from the fingertips, pulling the fingertips up toward the ceiling. Squeezing the glutes a little tighter. And slowly you can start to sink the hips down toward the ground without releasing the glutes. And again, not trying to reach your maximum stretch in the hips, just finding one that feels comfortable, one that feels safe. Taking your time, using each exhale maybe to deepen in this lunge. If you like, you can relax the top of the left foot down toward the ground. Still squeezing the glutes as tightly as you can, pulling up through the fingers, pulling down through the shoulders. And bringing palms together, interlocking the small three fingers, putting first finger and thumb toward the ceiling. We're going to stretch the arms out a little further, maybe pulling the hands back behind the head, arms coming behind the ears or further toward the ears, depending on where they are. Starting to lift the gaze toward the ceiling, continuing to breathe, softening the forehead. And exhale, leaving right arm high, bringing left hand to the ground. And we're going to twist, pulling up through the right fingers, pressing left palm into the ground. Pulling the shoulders back. Pulling the right arm as far back as you can. See if you can squeeze the scapula in behind the back. Lifting the gaze toward the ceiling. And exhale, bringing right hand inside the right foot. Walking the right foot out toward the edge of the mat, so that the wrists can come below the shoulders. Checking again that the right knee is just over the right ankle. Toes pointing forward. And as we inhale, shoulders pulling back, chest pulling forward through shoulders. Breathing, filling the rib cage. Keeping glutes engaged once more. You can start to push the right arm into the right knee and resist with the right knee. So they're both pushing against each other. Maybe just this resistance helps you find some more engagement through the right leg. Keep pulling forward through the chest, and if you like, you can start to bend through the elbows, maybe walking down onto the forearms. And if your arms isn't pushing against the leg anymore, try and keep this same engagement through the right leg as when it was there. Finding your Ujjayi breath if you like. We're going to count 5 more rounds of breath here. Trying to keep the hips square, keep pulling the chest forward, pulling shoulders back. Softening the forehead, softening the lips, releasing the jaw. And when you finish your 5 rounds of breath, one last inhale, pulling forward through the forearms or the hands. One last exhale, sinking down a little deeper. And as we inhale, this time walking back onto palms. Pressing the palms into the ground, bringing them toward the center of the mat so that they're both equal distance from the edge of the mat. Tuck the toes of the left foot, lifting the left knee. Control the right foot back into a high plank. And tucking the tailbone, pulling abdomen into spine, pulling shoulders back. If you like, you can come forward and sink down into chaturanga. Coming back up into up dog. Or if you prefer, you can bring the knees down, maybe doing a little chaturanga, or leaving hips high and bringing chest down from here Coming into cobra position. Wherever you are, pulling shoulders back, feeling the rib cage with the breath and feeling it rising as it does. Squeezing the glutes tightly, pushing pelvis down, pulling up through the thighs if you're in up dog. And as we exhale, tucking the toes, squeezing the glutes even tighter, pulling the weight back, lifting through heels. Exhale, grounding back down. And pausing in down dog, finding your breath, finding your alignment. Slowly bending the left leg, pulling the left knee toward the ceiling. Squeezing the right glute, pulling down through the right heel. Pulling up through the left knee, coming into scorpion pose here. Looking through left arm. Steadying the breath. Pulling down a little further through right heel, pulling up a little further through left knee. Squeezing the glutes a little tighter. And as we inhale, lifting the right heel, pull the left foot forward, lifting onto fingertips if you like, to bring the left foot between the hands. Relaxing right knee down. Checking left knees over left ankle. Squaring the hips, so pulling back through left, pulling forward through right. And either lifting onto fingertips, lengthening through the sides of the body, opening up through the chest as shoulders pull back, or bringing hands to the knee. Repeating the same, shoulders back, chest open, glutes engaged, squaring the hips. Inhale, hands overhead, coming into our low lunge, pulling up through fingers, pulling down through shoulders. Again, if you like, maybe bringing hands onto ribs, just reminding yourself where to direct the breath. Feeling this full expansion through the ribs. And keeping this visualization or this image in your mind as you bring the hands back. Continuing to find this space on each inhalation. And again, keeping glutes squeezed tightly, you can start to slowly, as you exhale, lower down through the hips, driving the pelvis forward, keeping hips square. With each exhale, sinking down a little deeper. Pulling up through the hands. Again, making sure there's no pulling or discomfort. And relaxing the top of the right foot if you like. Pressing the top of the right foot into the ground. Bringing palms together again. Extending thumb and first finger as we interlock or interlace the small three fingers. Pulling shoulders down, pulling up through the fingers, lengthening through the arms. Pulling arms back toward or even behind the ears. Feeling again this lift through the ribs, starting to lift the gaze toward the ceiling. Softening the forehead. Rolling the arms back. Glutes stay engaged, hips stay square. Squeezing as tightly as we can. Pulling the ribs away from the hips. And pulling up through left arm, exhale. Bringing the right palm toward the ground. Twisting, bringing abdomen toward the left leg. Pulling the left arm as far back as you can. Pulling shoulders away from the ears. Lifting the gaze. Squeezing the scapula in behind the back. Breathing here, keeping this length through the sides of the body. And exhale slowly, bringing left hand inside left foot, walking the left foot out towards the edge of the mat, bringing the palms below the shoulders, and again pulling back through the hands, pulling back through the shoulders, pulling the chest forward. Allowing the breath to lengthen, starting to push the left arm into the left leg, and again resisting with the left leg. So they're kind of moving in opposite directions. Starting to find maybe more engagement through the left leg. And just remind yourself to engage the glutes. Keep pulling the chest forward, breathing into the rib cage. Finding this lift. And if you like, starting to sink down through the abdomen. You can stay high on the hands if you like, or you can slowly walk down onto the forearms, keeping the same engagement through the left leg. Continuing to pull back through the arms, continuing to pull forward through the chest. Five more rounds of breath here. Continuing to visualize the hands on the ribs, continuing to pull them forward, feeling this lift through the rib cage, pulling shoulders back in the opposite direction. And when you finish your 5 rounds of breath, one more inhale, pulling as far back as we can through the arms or the hands. Exhale, sinking down a little deeper. And with the inhale, pulling back onto the palms. Checking the palms are central in the mat. Tucking toes of the right foot, lifting the right knee. Controlling left foot back into high plank. Repeating our vinyasa here, choosing your variation. Moving through the breath. Meeting an up dog or cobra. Counting 3 rounds of breath here. Pushing palms into the ground, pulling shoulders back. Squeezing glutes. Pressing pelvis down as thighs lift. Exhale, tucking toes. Keeping glutes engaged as we drive back. Lifting through heels. Exhale, pressing heels toward the ground. And finding some stillness in our down dog. Noticing any difference between this down dog and the first. I'm going to count 3 rounds of breath here. When you finish your 3 rounds of breath, you can slowly bring the left heel again a little further down into the ground, pulling up through the right knee. Coming back into scorpion, looking through right arm. Inhale, right leg forward. Again, lifting onto fingertips if you like, bringing right sole to the ground. Checking both of the toes are pointing forward. And if you're tired, you can rest the knee back on the ground. Otherwise, squeezing the glutes, bringing right knee over right ankle. Inhale, coming all the way up into a high lunge. Bringing hands overhead. This time interlocking the small 3 fingers straight away. Pulling back through the left heel. Pulling down through the shoulders, pulling up through the fingers. Pulling arms back. Keeping glutes engaged as we start to drive the pelvis forward, lowering through the hips. Lifting the gaze if you like. Keep pulling up through the left knee. Pressing down through all of the right foot. Pushing back into the left toes. Pulling as far back as you can through the arms. And as we exhale, if you have the knee lifted, if you have the knee down, Bring the knee up. And we're going to walk the feet toward the left side of the mat, pushing the heels out, pulling toes in. Keeping hands interlocked. Exhale, pulling forward through the arms. Lengthening through the legs, pulling arms as far forward as you can. Exhale, pointing fingers to left foot. Stretching through right side. Inhale, pulling back to center. Exhale to right foot. Pointing the fingers as far away as you can from the body, stretching through the left side. One more time to center. Inhale. And exhale, grabbing hold of the ankles or the big toes. And keeping this length through the legs, starting to pull. Finding length through the sides of the body, pulling up through the shoulders and the scapula. When I say up, I mean away from the ground. So pulling them up through the back. Bringing the head toward the ground. Breathing here. And exhale, pushing the palms behind the back. Interlocking fingers, extending through the arms, pulling the hands up toward the ceiling, keeping shoulders away from the ears, squeezing the scapula in behind the back, and using the weight of the arms to push the body a little further down toward the ground. Allowing the hands to be heavy, way down. Inhale. Bringing the hands all the way to the ground. Walking the fingers toward the right foot, twisting toes to face the front of the mat. Bending through the right leg. Pressing palms into the ground. Inhale to high plank. Exhale, lowering down, choosing your variation of Vinyasa. Meeting in a cobra or in a up dog. Squeezing the glutes, finding your alignment, focusing on the breath. Exhale, toes tucked. Driving back to down dog, heels lifted. And pressing down through the heels. 3 rounds of breath to recuperate here, maybe rocking hips from side to side. Pedaling the feet if you like, using whatever variation you prefer. And as we come back to center, grounding down through the right heel this time, pulling up to the left knee. Coming back to our scorpion pose. Looking through left arm. Inhale, left foot forward. Checking the toes are pointing straight forward. Checking left knees over left ankle. And again, if you're tired, bringing the knee to the ground. Squeezing the glutes, driving pelvis forward as we inhale into our high lunge. Hands overhead. Finding our interlocking of the small 3 fingers. Pointing first finger and thumb toward the ceiling. Again, pulling back through the right heel, lifting through the right knee, driving the pelvis a little further forward, lifting through the ribs as we pull the arms back, squeezing the glutes, finding length between fingers and shoulders, maybe looking up toward the ceiling. Pulling the arms as far back as we can, finding a baby back bend here. Making sure glutes are always engaged. Lowering down as much as we can. And if the knee is down, pulling up through the right knee. And this time twisting, keeping hands together. Toes in toward the right side of the mat. And stretching the arms forward. Exhale toward the left leg. Stretching through the right side. This time maybe hugging the body a little closer in toward the left thigh. Sorry if I'm touching the microphone. Inhale, back to center. Stretching the fingers away from the hips. And exhale toward the right foot. Stretching through left side. Inhale, back to center. And exhale. Again, releasing the hands. Bringing the fingers to the toes. Or the hands to the ankles. Or the heels. Starting to pull up through the shoulders. Pulling up through scapula. Bringing head toward the ground. Keeping legs long. Checking back in with the breath here. And bringing the fingers behind the back. Just interlocking the fingers however feels natural. And then swapping the grip of the fingers. So we've done different to the last time. Extending through the arms. Pulling the fingers down toward the ground. And allowing the arms to weigh down a little further. Squeezing scapula behind the back. Pulling shoulders away from the ears. Keep pulling up through the hips. And releasing the hands all the way down to the ground. Walking back toward the left foot, twisting the feet to the front of the mat. Pressing palms down. Spreading fingers. Inhale. Back to our high plank. And last vinyasa for today. Taking your time, following the breath. Just one breath in a cobra or in a up dog this time. Reaching back in down dog once more. And again, just seeing if this down dog feels different. Maybe we feel more open. Maybe it feels more like a resting pose in the first down dog. Maybe it doesn't. Finding any movement if you like. Any extra little stretch. Maybe rocking hips from side to side, maybe extending the opposite arm. Continuing just to play with your down dog a little. And when you're ready, you can bring the knees all the way out toward the edges of the mat. Bringing the tops of the feet to the ground, big toes together. Sitting back into full child pose, sit bones pressing against the heels, lengthening the arms forward as far as we can. Either resting the forehead or the chin on the mat. Allowing the breath to be long once more. Maybe releasing a few rounds of breath through the mouth. If you have a buildup of breath. Just allow the abdomen to relax completely down between the thighs. Allowing the face to soften. Allowing shoulders to become heavy. We're going to start to walk the hands back toward the knees. Slowly bringing the knees together. Bringing heels together as well. Again, pressing sit bones down over the heels. Again, walking the arms forward. Again, breathing into the ribs, lengthening forward. And as you exhale, allowing the upper body just to melt down over the thighs. Again, bringing the forehead toward the ground. You can relax the back of the arms onto the ground, allowing the shoulders to release any tension that they're holding. And coming to kneeling, just so there's no interruption in the sound, but you can stay where you are. And just start to feel the muscles in the back melting away from either side of the spine. Feeling the back softening. Stretching as it sinks down over the legs. Noticing if the breath has calmed, how the breath has impacted the body. And when you're ready, bringing the palms back to either side of the chest, slowly pulling the tailbone down toward the ground, pulling abdomen toward the spine, rolling all the way up through the back, pulling shoulders back, lifting through the chest. And we're going to relax the sit bones back down to one side, extending the legs into a straddle position, pushing the heels as far away out from the body as we can, pulling the flesh out from under the sit bones, pressing the knees into the ground. If you feel like the back is rounding, then either you can find something to sit on to lift the hips until you can find length through the back, or you can find a bend through the knees, helping you find a little more openness through the chest as well. Wherever you are, pulling the toes up toward the ceiling, keeping the feet flexed. We're just going to bring the left elbow onto the left thigh. You can rest the head on the hand. You can either bring the right hand to the back of the head or the back of the neck, wherever feels more comfortable. We're just going to pull the elbow toward the ceiling, finding openness through the chest, maybe feeling a stretch through the right side, pulling back through both shoulders. If you like, you can come down a little lower, bringing the elbow onto the ground, the left elbow onto the ground first, pulling up still through the right elbow. And you can stay here, just sinking down over the left hand. Or you can extend the left hand to take hold of the inner edge of the left foot. See? So grabbing the inner edge of the foot, either leaving the right hand on the back of the head or the neck, or extending the arm, maybe reaching for the foot, continuing to twist body toward the ceiling. Taking the toes of the right foot are still pulling up toward the ceiling, pulling down through both hip bones. And inhale, wherever you are, coming back to center. Changing sides. This time, maybe bringing right elbow to right thigh. Relaxing the right ear onto the right hand. And bringing the left hand behind the head or onto the neck, pulling up through the elbow. Squeezing the scapula behind the back, looking up toward the left elbow with the eyes. Again, if you like, coming down, maybe bringing the elbow inside the right thigh, pushing the elbow against the inner thigh, pulling up a little higher through the left elbow, keeping the breath long, finding expansion through the left side of the body, breathing into the rib cage. And again, you can stay here if you like. Just resting the head over the right hand, maybe becoming a little more relaxed in this position. Or you can extend the right arm, bringing the right hand to the inner right foot. And extend the left arm, maybe bringing the left hand to the right foot, continuing to twist the body toward the ceiling. Continuing to open up through the left side of the body. Remembering to breathe. Pushing sit bones into the ground. Checking the left toes, pointing up. And inhale, coming back to center. One last stretch before we come into Shavasana. Bringing hands forward. Again, pulling back through the hands like we did at the beginning of the class, pulling shoulders back. And as we inhale, filling the rib cage, pulling the chest forward through the hands. Staying here if you like, or if you're comfortable, walking down and toward the forearms. And breathing here, allowing abdomen to sink down, pulling forward through the chest. Again, if you have very open hips, maybe you can walk the hands forward and sink down a little deeper. Again, you don't need to go to your maximum. Just find a stretch that feels good, where you can stay for a little while, where you can keep the chest open. With one last inhale, pulling forward through the chest. One last exhale, sinking down. And as we inhale, coming back to our seated position. Bringing the knees together, maybe supporting the legs with the hands. Gonna bring the feet hip width apart, making sure we have space to come back into our Shavasana. Leaving the soles of the feet on the ground for now. Hooking back onto the forearms and giving the weight to the forearms, allowing shoulders and the back to relax down, almost falling to the ground. And when you're ready, you can start to allow all of the back to spread onto the mat. Allowing the weight of the upper body to melt down into the ground. You can extend the arms, tucking the shoulders behind the back, allowing the neck to be long. Checking that the chin's not lifted, trying to keep the head in line with the spine. Extending the arms, turning palms toward the ceiling. And one by one, extending the legs, bringing heels out wide. Allowing the toes to sink down by either side of the body. Feeling the legs becoming heavy. Just start to notice the eyelids becoming very heavy. almost as if it's impossible to keep the eyes open. Just allow them to slowly flutter closed. Starting to bring your focus back to the breath. As it comes in and out through the nose, start to follow its journey around the body. As it travels into the abdomen, as it fills the rib cage. Again, notice the two sides of the rib cage opening up. Spreading apart from one another. Just use all of your attention to follow this breath, to feel this movement within the body. To visualize this expansion of the ribs. And trying to keep this movement in a constant flow without stopping or starting. Once the ribs reach their full capacity, notice how they start to contract, to pull back together, sinking down toward the ground. And again, notice the effect on the back as the breath leaves the body, as the abdomen and the rib cage contracts. Notice how the muscles start to soften, to relax down into the ground, filling any pockets of air, any space. Feel the body melting into the ground, sinking down gradually deeper and deeper. Body becomes more and more relaxed. Feel the forehead softening. Allow all of the face to start to relax. From the top of the forehead down to the eyes, the nose and the cheeks, the lips and the jaw. Until the face feels completely free of tension. Free of expression. you to draw again a long inhalation through the body, allowing it to be even longer than the last, feeling a little more expansion than with the last breath. And as you exhale, you can let out a long sigh through the mouth, releasing all of the breath, releasing any tension with this breath. You can repeat this breath 2 more times. As we inhale, finding expansion. And as you exhale, feeling the tension in the body being released with the breath. One last time. Inhale, even a little deeper this time. Exhale. And you can stay here in your Shavasana as long as you like. Whenever you're ready, just slowly bending the knees, rolling over onto your right side, allowing eyes to slowly open before coming back to a seated position. Thank you, everyone. Namaste.